What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over my survivor guide in Evil Dead the game. Now, a few days ago, we talked about a demon guide, so if you guys want to check that video out, it's again, a couple days ago, I put it up. And survivors, they're interesting. I've noticed survivors have overall gotten a lot better, and I've noticed that both from the survivor side as well as the demon side, right? You can kind of tell both ways. But I'm going to try to walk you through how I think you should be playing, how I've seen people play, both, again, when I am a survivor, or if I'm a demon, I'm facing a really good group of survivors. I want to talk about, how it's done. So here's the thing. The demon dictates quite a lot in this game, okay? When you're walking around the world as a survivor, the demon is obviously the one placing traps, possessing, different enemies, and really, so you're kind of playing it on their pace. But you as a survivor have a little wiggle room in that. And what I mean by that is, in the very beginning of the game, when you start out a match, you have probably the best chance of dictating the pace immediately, okay? You don't have as much of a chance of doing that as the game or as the match goes on. Now, yes, there are obviously different strategies. You can stretch it out in terms of time. You can rush it through. I'm not saying there's a one way of doing it, but I find that in the very beginning, you have the opportunity to push the pace however you want to push it as a survivor. So what I mean by that is if you want to rush through things, that could be very beneficial. So one of the things I think I've noticed pretty, I'd say overall, in terms of something that seems pretty consistently good, is to go for the map and really start to get those map pieces as quickly as humanly possible. You need a weapon, both a physical, handheld weapon, and then also a gun of some kind, right? You definitely want that. But you also, after getting that, after getting health, after getting, whatever you kind of need, getting to those map pieces as early as possible is probably the best thing to do. Again, we talked about in the demon guide, the demon is, they're going to level up kind of at their own pace. Some demons will level up, slower than others. And again, I've found that the quicker you can push the game forward, the more benefit, because most likely you're going to be facing a demon at a lower power. And what does that mean? Well, it means the demon has less at their disposal. If you are already at the map or the dagger, right, when you have to stand there for a certain amount of time, if you're at that point and the demon is only at level like 8 to 12, you're doing really good, in my opinion, because even if they summon the boss on you or whatever, they're not powerful at all, because you unlock the boss at level 10 as the demon. So the quicker you move, the better it is. Also, the demon, depending on how much they've played the game, depending on where they start in the map versus where you start in the map, it is highly likely you can get 1 to 2, at least 1 to 2 map pieces before the demon finds you. Now, you probably, and actually this is a guaranteed, tip or trick, do not drive. Try to stay very silent. How when you're the demon, it says, X person is making noise. You want to be very careful early on as the survivor. You want to, I would argue, stay away from enemies, right? Don't kind of like pick fights. Definitely do not drive. Just walk or run to the objectives. That's it. Walk to the objectives and get those map pieces and start to, again, push the game as fast as you can, because when you're doing that, again, the demon is going to be under-leveled, most likely. Now, in terms of the minute-to-minute gameplay as the survivors, here's a couple tips that I've noticed. Anytime survivors have kicked my butt as a demon, I always find at the end of the match that they were heavily leveled up. Okay, now you find these through the supply crates. They're oftentimes right by the map pieces. They're in kind of key locations in the map in general. You need to find as many of these supply crates as humanly possible. Not only can they give you a special gun, like a rare or legendary gun or weapon, that's definitely beneficial, right? That's definitely good. But more than anything else, you can level up. So you can level up your fear to reduce the fear. You can level up your health. All of these different things I have found pretty consistently. Again, good survivors, they are leveled up like you wouldn't believe. They're leveled up 15 to 17 times probably on average. So good survivors tend to have found the supply crates, I guess, as you're going on. Now, another thing, and this, maybe I should have said this first, this goes back to the very beginning when you're actually picking your survivors. Best survivor groups I have seen are ones that have mixes of the classes, right? So there's 4 different classes. And some of them do not have many, right? So you really are I guess, pushed in this game to diversify, to kind of have one person in each class. However, you don't need to, right? The game doesn't force you, but I would say you should. So I would say every character, every person that you're playing in this game probably should be a different class. You know, there's classes that definitely help fear. Fear is a huge thing. As a survivor, you do not want your fear high at all. Some classes are literally built to reduce fear, right, with their special abilities. So that's a really, really good thing to have just in general, right? So that's something you have to keep in mind as you're going in the game. But you don't want to all be playing as the same class or close to all of you playing as the same class. Now, when you're actually playing the game, some kind of, moderate tips and tricks, dodge consistently, okay? Dodge, and the reason I say this, and obviously it's like, well, duh, Alex, right? Dodging is important in any game. You don't want to take the hit. The reason I say it here, though, right, is as the demon, again, if the demon does become powerful, and, it probably is going to happen, at some point in the match, the demon is going to get to a relatively okay power level, and you're going to have to deal with it. So what I guess I'm going at is every time you're fighting an enemy, if the enemy can get like 1 or 2 hits on you per enemy, that's not good. You want to avoid that in general, so that the only hits you're taking in the game are when the possessions happen, right? When the demon possesses a character, which goes back to the fear. You know what I mean? Focus on characters that reduce fear, get to light locations every so often. There's been matches I've played where there's like one person, it's like, your fear is so high, like go. Like I've actually found, you don't really want to leave the group, okay? I have faced one survivor group as a demon where the survivors split into 2 groups of 2, and they actually did it. They actually successfully did it. I don't know how that was even possible, but overall, besides that one match, every single survivor group has always stayed together, every single time. So at the same time, though, when you have a high fear level, to break off from the group just for a couple seconds and go off, get your light source, and lower that fear, I think is hugely beneficial. You may not be helping the group massively in terms of taking out enemies, but I have found that, you would do more damage to them if you stayed. So one example I have, and I don't know if it's recorded, but I'll just tell you the example. It was the wave where you're standing in the map location, right? And my fear was very high, so I left the group and went to a light source. Now, I didn't really contribute to killing the enemies, but I felt, and I do think this was accurate because it turned out to happen, but if I were possessed, I would do more damage to the group than I would have done, than leaving. I think the group could handle the enemies over me staying and then getting possessed and then shooting the weapons, right? I talked about in the demon guide. I find it very beneficial to possess a human and then use their weapon immediately, because at worst, you're wasting their ammo, and at best, you can do a lot of damage to another person. So fear and possession are gigantic. You don't want to get possessed. I have, again, historically found when survivors don't get possessed a lot, or when they just aren't doing damage to each other. That's another thing to I guess, know as a survivor. If you know one of you is possessed, breaking off is not a bad idea either. And I'm talking if you get the possession or your fear all the way up, because when the demon possesses you, you only have so much time being possessed before the demon is kicked out. And if you are walking super far away from the pack, and then the demon possesses you, they're not going to be able to walk your body back to the pack anymore. They won't be able to get there in the time limit. So I found that to be hugely beneficial. Basically, awareness. Just be aware if your fear is high, maybe break off and do something about it. And then if you are in risk of being possessed, I also think breaking off is not a bad idea at all, because again, you can't really do damage to the group if you're not close to the group. And again, besides that, I would just say focus on that dodge. You do not want to take those easy hits from enemies. They stack up. And if you can get rid of them entirely, right? You hit the enemy a couple times and then you do like a finishing move, or actually in this game, you don't even have to do a finishing move. You can still hit like the R3 button and still do a thing, which will lower the enemy's health, but it won't be a finisher, and then you can do a finisher later. Those are hugely beneficial because you can't get hit when you're doing that, right? So you hit them a couple times, you dodge, you make sure you're not getting hit, you do your couple finishers on them, and bam, you can take out many enemies in this game without taking a single blow. And again, why is that beneficial? Well, that if you do get possessed, right, if you make a mistake somewhere else, if you get possessed close to your own group and you start, getting damage taken to you, that's okay, or it's more okay, because you've saved your health because of the enemies. You don't want to be taking easy hits from specifically like base level enemies, and of course the boss, right? When they summon the boss, again, the first wave, or the first when the boss first gets unlocked, they really aren't that powerful. But if you max them out, they are quite something. One final thing, and actually, let's talk specifically about that: gang up on the boss. In my historical research, or in terms of me playing the game, I have found the best survivors that deal with the bosses literally just all attack all at one time. You really can't do too much damage to all 4 survivors when they are just destroying you, when they're all on top of you. The worst thing to do as a boss, or when you're the survivors facing a boss, is to spread yourselves out, right? Because there's some easy attacks the bosses can do to you. If you separate yourself from the group, they can really lower your health. Honestly, every time, and this is even coming from me playing as the demon, every time that I face good groups, I play as the boss, right? Or I go in, and I immediately get like bum rushed from every, all 4 survivors at once. That's the way to do it. It really is. There's no other way, or there's no better way. You may get hit by another enemy, behind you or something, but overall, the damage the boss can do to you is worth sacrificing a couple hits from weaker enemies to just all deal with the boss at the same time. That's a much better strategy, and you're going to save health that way. So let me know what you guys think about this. Let me know specifically, too, if I missed anything, if I didn't say anything that you guys noticed in terms of the survivors. Let me know. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on so you know when all these videos go up. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next video.